I want to start with maybe the greatest sports book ever written. It was 1985, 1986, Indiana basketball, and the book was A Season on the Brink. And it was written by John Feinstein, who passed away yesterday at the age of 69. It was a wonderful inside look at Bob Knight and Indiana basketball, and he had full access, and boy, did he use it. And then it came out, and Bob Knight hated it, which meant it was true. It was great. And it was. But John worked for the Washington Post. I would cross paths with John, whether it was golf or it was basketball. He was there. And he was doggedly determined to get something that nobody else had. He would work tirelessly. And he was unique in what he did and how he did it. He was also in the shadow of the great sports writers at the Washington Post. I mean, Tom Boswell and Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. But John Feinstein, it always felt like, was the little brother, but he was not. He wrote over 40 books. He wrote a book about the Civil War. It was Army-Navy football. He wrote a book about golf, A Good Walk Spoiled. He wrote a book about the Patriot League. John, give him a topic, and he'll go to town. But at the time the book came out, he was 30 years of age. Season on the Brink. I mean, when you think about it, that's 39 years ago. But John had a good relationship with Bob Knight, and not many people did, certainly sports writers, but it cost John his relationship with Bob Knight. But he wrote over 40 books and really was a remarkable reporter. And that's what it takes. Sometimes when you're writing a book, you've got to be a great reporter. You've got to be able to take notes. You've got to be able to find out things. But he was polarizing. John was not lovable. He was not embraceable. But John didn't care. That's who John was. And I hope that Press Row leaves a seat for John Feinstein in San Antonio at the Final Four. And they joked about when John would go to Indiana basketball games at Assembly Hall, he had a seat. They called it the Feinstein seat. Like John was there. And I hope that they create the Feinstein seat because every basketball writer in America owes a tip of the cap or tip of the pen to John Feinstein. But Season on the Brink, you could make a case. Best sports book ever written. And I know that's a big blanket to throw over sports writing. But what John did, how he did it, when he did it, and he did it with Bob Knight, John got famous quickly. Yes, Marvin.
Is that your favorite sports book?
I didn't think of it. What is my favorite sports book? I think Ball 4 might have been because of what it was at the time. We were finding out things that were happening on road trips with baseball players. You know, Jim Bouton was spilling the beans, and he was alienated. But this is 1970, where you're finding out things with guys, and he's playing for a nondescript team, Seattle Pilots, and that to me was like, wow. He's telling things that are going on with his teammates here in this book. That was probably the first one I read where I thought I was finding out things that maybe we weren't supposed to know. And we probably weren't supposed to know. But Jim Bouton, kind of let us behind the curtain. I don't know what book comes up. If I say favorite sports book of all time, what book would come up for you, Marv?
For me, Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
It's just a great look at everything, like with football as the foundation.
Sure.
Race, socioeconomics, politics, everything, but football was the basis.
Yeah. What about you, Todd? Do you have a favorite sports book?
I read a book once called The Color Orange. It had kind of about the history of the Broncos, especially after that 86 season. Now, that probably wouldn't resonate unless you're a big Bronco fan, but The Color Orange was well done.
Paulie?
If not Season on the Brink, I'll go with Heaven is a Playground by Rick Tellender. He spent a summer in Brooklyn with streetball players like Fly Williams, Bernard King, and Albert King, and I've read it 5 to 6 times.
Foul was another one. It was about Connie Hawkins, and it was about a New York legend, and was he going to be able to play in college and then getting, kind of kicked out of college and then playing in the pros. I eventually got to see Connie Hawkins when he was with the Phoenix Suns. He came to Cincinnati, and I just remember reading that book, and there he was right in front of me. Seton, do you have a book that maybe stands out, best sports book?
There was a really great book that just came out in the last couple of years about the annals of sports history. I believe Dan, was that your book?
Oh,
That was the best sports book I ever read.
Wow.
That was supposed to be Marvin's answer.
Yeah.
It's a Friday. Good move, Seton.
Thank you, Seton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only one that comes to mind for
Thank
me.
you. Yeah. Yes, Paul.
I'm just reading some background because you can't really overstate what a big deal season on the brink was. Knight finished under 500 in the Big Ten the year before. It was a mess. And that's the season John Feinstein took a leave of absence. He made $17,000 up front for the book, and then he got money on the back end. 2 years after the book came out, they won the Final Four, Indiana. But it was a hot time in Bloomington.
His last column appeared in the Washington Post, and that was just a couple of days ago, and it was a profile on Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo. But John Feinstein left a lasting imprint on the world of sports, dead at the age of 69.